All right, hello everyone, it's silverkyle, and with the recent announcement of the Super Mario 35th Anniversary Nintendo Direct that we had, where they announced a bunch of big games that are going to be coming out in celebration of Mario turning 35, that I'm super excited for. I cannot wait for that triple pack, the 64 Sunshine and Galaxy pack. Can't wait for that. Also, Super Mario 3D World going multiplayer online. This is something that I thought Nintendo should have done such a long time ago, but either way, I'm so happy that we're getting it now. Very much looking forward to those games. I'm also looking forward to the Super Mario 35 that we're going to get with the online subscription. Don't really like that a lot of these things are a limited time, but still, I am very much looking forward to a lot of them. And what that got me thinking about the next big anniversary that we're going to be talking about, which is for the second biggest property that Nintendo has. And even though Mario might be the biggest mascot for Nintendo, I think that a lot of people might love this series more than Mario, and that is the Legend of Zelda, which also turns 35 next year. And what I'm hoping is that we'll be getting something like this for the Legend of Zelda series as well, where they in celebration of Link and Zelda turning 35, we're gonna get a slew of big games, which, and I hope they even go a little bit more further than they did with Mario. I don't think that that's gonna happen because Mario is the number one, but man, they could really hit out a lot of big games. So I'm going to talk about what I think that they're actually going to reveal, and then we'll go into some things that could be really fun. And I hope that they do as well. And what we'll probably get is a combination of some of these things. I hope, anyway. So what I think is going to be definitely happening, that is almost a guarantee for next year, would be the sequel to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Now, if all that we get in celebration of The Legend of Zelda turning 35 next year is the sequel to Breath of the Wild, I'm going to be perfectly fine with that. That would hold me over and make me so happy next year, because The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild completely changed the way I saw The Legend of Zelda. I was a big fan with Ocarina of Time. Like that got me hooked into the series, but this changed the landscape. This is one of my all-time favorite games of all time. It's in my top 3. It might be my number 1. I have such a hard time with my top 3 games right now, but it's definitely up there. I put in over 90 hours into this game, which is nothing compared to a lot what some people have put into. But I don't generally play games for a long period of time like that. I got all 120 shrines. I defeated Ganon. And then without even looking at the DLC, I could have still gotten all the different armor pieces. I still could have got all the Korok. The Korok seeds alone, 900 Korok seeds, is insane. I actually did like hunting for a few of them once in a while. I loved stumbling upon them, and then I did actually have some fun when I would use a guide and try to figure out or try to get as many as I possibly could. I really liked that. I just wish that there would have been more of a point, because I think that once you get to a certain amount of Korok seeds, it won't be increasing your inventory anymore, like the amount of slots that you have. And I thought that that was a really cool thing, an incentive to get you to get more Korok seeds. I wish that they would have gone all the way to 900, always have some kind of incentive, even if you space it out by a bit, like, at 400 Korok seeds, 500 Korok seeds, 100 in between, it still would have been something. But either way, fantastic game, and I'm so looking forward to the sequel. So if we get a sequel to that, I'm very happy. Now, as we drop the game that I just love. Anyway, now what I think is another possibility that I think would be fairly easy is to port over some games to the Switch, because that seems to do really well for Nintendo. I think it's a lot easier than to make a new game, or that you can make a new game along with porting some games over, because that's another thing too, is that I just love the convenience of having a bunch of games on one system, especially when it has the option of going handheld as well. That just adds a completely different layer to it. And I think it would be very easy to port over The Legend of Zelda, Wind Waker, and Twilight Princess, which we see right here on the Wii U. Not as many people bought the Wii U, so this would be a great place to have fans be able to enjoy these in HD. They look fantastic. They did a little bit of tweaking with Wind Waker so that the sailing doesn't take as long. Like they did, or it's a lot better. So there's quite a few things that really make this desirable on the Switch. Just being able to play every Legend of Zelda game as well on the Switch would be pretty fantastic. We already have, quite a few of them on there. We start adding these two, we're getting a lot closer. And in terms of the main console games, in terms of the handheld games, we probably wouldn't be able to, but all the main games, that would be pretty freaking awesome. Another one that I think has a very high likelihood, because we've already heard a little bit about the rumors about it, is The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword in HD on the Switch. I think that you could probably have a double pack of these two, and then you can have this solo, because they would probably have to do a little bit more into it. I don't know if we would be using still motion control, if they would try to figure out a different way that they could go about being able to play this game. But either way, I think that would be a great addition as well, that we could get. So honestly, those are the three things that I'm kind of expecting the most. The next ones that I think would have a good chance. So I'm expecting Breath of the Wild 2, Skyward Sword, Wind Waker, and Twilight Princess HD as well, in a double pack, more so for these two. But what I could also see happening is getting the Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask. And I They could either go the route that they did with Super Mario 64, where they just went with that version and making it in HD, or they could potentially go with the 3DS version as well. They did make a 3DS version. Majora's Mask I don't have, because Majora's Mask always intimidates me because of the time thing. I know that it shouldn't, but it just freaks me out. And I would probably give it a chance if I had a double pack of it. But yeah, and they did that with Majora's Mask on the 3DS as well. So we could have kind of enhanced versions right there. And I what I would like them to do is to just retouch the 3DS versions and then and improve them to make them look just a little bit cleaner. And then you release that, and you could have a double pack for those two, or you could also include them with the Wii U versions of Wind Waker and Twilight Princess. Have a 4-pack right there, and Skyward Sword on its own. That could work as well. So those are the things that I think have the best chance of happening next year. But Nintendo can go a little bit crazier. So I'm thinking that they could make another game like The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening, where they remade it completely and computerized it. I do like the graphical style, but I think that one that would do even better than Link's Awakening, definitely, is A Link to the Past. Everybody loves that game. Or a lot of people really like that version of The Legend of Zelda. And when it's in terms of 2D Zelda, I think that would be arguably the main one that everybody loves the most. So this, I feel, was just kind of like a primer to test the waters to see how people would react to this. And I think that definitely putting A Link to the Past on the Switch in this style would be amazing. Although, another thing too is that I think that this is just a little bit too cutesy for A Link to the Past, because I think A Link to the Past works better with like a darker palette, in my opinion. Now, another two games that I think that could also potentially happen would be a sequel to Hyrule Warriors. They did port this over to the Switch, so we do have enough people that have played the game now. But I think that a sequel to this would be a nice addition to complement every other game that's coming out. And then the last one that I think that they should really focus on is something like the Legend of Zelda Triforce Heroes, where you have 3 players, or you could go, what was it? The Four Swords adventure that they have that was on GameCube, I believe. That would work really well in addition to everything else. And I really liked this, where you have 3 players and you all have to work out puzzles together, and you need those 3 players to actually unlock the puzzles. Great innovation on Nintendo's part in that aspect for a multiplayer game. I really like how they were able to do that. Great game. I would love for them to make more of these games. And I think I would honestly like this more than definitely Hyrule Warriors and A Link to the Past. I don't know about that. I really like this. I like playing multiplayer online with my friends, and this was a great way to do that. So I'm really hoping that that's what we get. And then the last thing that they could do is give us some limited edition or collector's editions for some of these. I'm really surprised that Nintendo didn't go with that route for the triple pack that we're getting for Super Mario 64, Sunshine, and Galaxy. I think that they could have totally done something, just, have a little bit of a cardboard box, add something like a figure, and I'm sold. I love that kind of stuff, especially for big games and big celebrations like this. So I'm thinking that you could have one like this for definitely Breath of the Wild 2, and I'd assume that will get a collector's edition because the first one did. I think you could do that with A Link to the Past. Link's Awakening actually got one, I think, in Europe, like a collector's edition. We didn't get anything in North America. I don't know why that is. If one place gets it, North America should get it as well. But I think everybody should get it, honestly. And I think that you could potentially do that for when you do the Zelda 64 games, and also just give us a collector's edition for literally everything. Make all of these games and give us collector's editions for all of these. That probably wouldn't be the smartest thing, unless that they kind of, well, they could separate them each for each month, and you could have a smaller quantity of the collector's editions too. It's a possibility. It's definitely a possibility. So that's pretty much it, though. I'm so excited for next year. I'm hoping that we get at least some of these. But if we at least get Breath of the Wild 2, I'll be happy. So thank you all for watching. Let me know in the comments below what you think we're going to be getting next year for the 35th anniversary of The Legend of Zelda. And you have been bearded in. Beardage!